Hi, Stuart. Can you please talk about what is the best way to surrender to your teacher or to the creator?
That's something that I had to learn when I was younger, and it's a really important question you just asked. I mean, when I studied with Rudy, what really got me close to him and what really enabled me to learn an enormous amount was the willingness to surrender, the willingness to let go, the willingness to do service, the willingness to be so grateful for what he was giving me in my life that, whatever he needed, whatever he wanted from me, I was willing to do. And it worked and allowed me to get very close to him and to get amazing teachings. The depth of his teachings would flow. And I mean, this is an important thing because we need to learn how to do service in the world. We need to learn how to do service to God. We need to learn how to let go of our ego, this image we have of self-importance and all this stuff, so that we can truly be guided by a higher force of energy in the universe. And one of the ways to do this is learning how to serve in the world, learning how to say thank you. And as I've said many times over and over again, it's not just lip service gratitude. It has to be what one is willing to do, what one is willing to contribute. And I think that is a key to all of this. Because I remember once Rudy he screamed at me, "I'm sick and tired of your lip service gratitude." I mean, he was really going through, we were in India at the time, and he had incredible forces of energy working on him. And I had never seen him like that. And he looked at me and said, "I'm sick and tired of your lip service gratitude." I said, "Rudy, I didn't say that, I made 5 ashrams for you. I did, I worked 18, 20 hours a day in Texas, but it was true, because it's got to be more than just, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. The act of a human being has to, the way we communicate with life, the way we serve our families, the way we serve our jobs, the way we serve with gratitude, everything that makes it possible for us to be alive today. This is what I'm talking about, It's not serving some dictator or some autocrat or person like that, but one's family, one's friends, the people we work with, being willing to go that extra, 5 miles for somebody. Because, one really has to let go to be able to do that. And, to be grateful to one's teacher, for God's sake, Rudy always used to say the reason he would teach the way he does, and it's the same thing that's true to me, is the gratitude he had to Nityananda and the Shankaracharya Puri, who he said both of them saved my life. And frankly, the only reason I do this, is out of gratitude to Rudy. Without Rudy, I'd be dead today, I would have been dead 40 years ago. If it wasn't for, his willingness to nurture this little stupid Stuart who came along, who told him he wanted a spiritual life. So all of that works if a person finds gratitude in their heart. All of that is part of learning how to let go of ego, let go of the self-image we have that we think is going to help us make it in the world. And all it does is create tons of tension, not only for us, but for our families, our friends, or, people that are in our lives, the people we work with. So we need to get free of the one person who is keeping us from being free, and that's ourselves. And one of the ways of doing this is learning how to serve in the world, learning how to serve God in the world. And trust me, when you get that level of surrender in yourself, I mean, the work becomes impossible. It becomes very, very difficult. So that's part of, and it's all about letting go of ego, And I learned that from my teacher. I watched the way he served the people and his students, people in his life. It was just a miracle for me to learn that. Because when I was a young schmucky kid doing meditation, I had no idea, what you had to do. And I gradually, slowly learned it from a very great master. There's no higher service than serving higher energy in the universe. And you've got to build an inner life that makes you capable of doing it. Otherwise, there's resentment, there's anger. Why do I have to do all this? What, I want my own room, my own space, all this stuff that goes on. Because I remember living in Rudy's house. I've told you this story, where I asked him, if I could move into his house because I really wanted to get deeper teachings. And he said, yes. I was living in his house. It was a very big house, three floors of lofts. And, each loft was over 2,000 square feet. And I was living on the second floor. And there was nobody there but me and about 150 different statues and Tibetan paintings. So I was living in a freaking museum, for God's sake, and right in the middle of art that I absolutely loved. And it was incredible. And then he invited about 20 people to come stay in his house. And from that point on, I never knew where I was even going to sleep. And man, I went through hell. I really went through hell. And one day I complained to him. We were walking on 4th Avenue, he and I. I said, Rudy, I don't have a place to sleep. And he looked at me and he said, pointed at it, I'll never forget this, at a weed growing in a crack in a New York City sidewalk. He said, that weed has more courage than you do. Never forget that. I never opened my mouth and complained again. I mean, imagine being a weed having to survive in a crack in a New York City sidewalk. And then 3 weeks later, he came to me and he said, Stuart, look, every time I go away, which was really often, you can stay in my apartment. I really understand what you're going through here. And it just brought tears to my eyes. He understood. And then one day he said to me, Stuart, I'm sending everybody home. I said, Rudy, you can invite another 50 people here. I said, every one of these people has taught me how to get closer to God. And he said, Stuart, that's why I invited them in the first place, because I needed you to learn this. Can you get a greater master than that in the world? It was extraordinary what he taught me. How to get free of me. How to get free of me. So you want to know about surrender, I'm talking about it, And I spoke about it all last week. There's always going to be tests. There's always going to be bumps in the road. There's always going to be difficult things that are going to happen to everybody, whether you're doing spiritual work or you're not doing spiritual work. The incredible nobility of this meditation practice is you can learn how to use these bumps in the road, use these tests, and find out by going deep enough inside yourself how they can get you closer to your spiritual enlightenment. Instead of complaining about it and bitching about them and all this, you find out how they work for you. How can I grow because of what just happened? And oh my God, I'm going to hide out from life and I can't stand it anymore. You know, and I'm going to just lock myself in the bathroom and never come out again, you know? I mean, that's just bullshit, you know? How can I use what takes place in my life and learn from it and use it to get closer to my enlightenment? And that's part of the evolution of an inner life. You get strong enough to do things like this. How to make everything work for you instead of against you. Because there's always going to be stuff that happens. There's always come on that none of us are going to like, whether it's in the external world or even in our internal self. We got to learn how to use everything as a reason to grow instead of a reason to defeat ourselves. And that comes with the development of a chakra system that is strong enough to do what I'm talking about. So I hope it's clear what I'm talking about, because, you know, it's not only in meditation, it's in whatever we do in life. There's always going to be tests and problems and things. You got to learn how to use them as a way of growing, as a way of developing ourselves as human beings and developing ourselves as people that want a spiritual life. And service is a really good way, you know, but not, you know, philanthropic service and all that kind of stuff, you know, so that comes organically out of the core of your being, out of gratitude, out of deep gratitude for what is being given and how you are growing in your life. That's the way to do it. And you serve your family, you serve your friends, your people in your life. You know, you serve whatever helps you to grow, you know, in your life. Unconditionally, you know. Because all rewards are just steps on a ladder, get you to the next test that you have to do. And you get the reward. There's another step on a ladder that gets you to the next test that you got to do. You know, I mean, look, it doesn't end. Thank God it's not like Prometheus, where you're constantly falling down the mountain. You finally get to, and then you look up and there's another mountain there, you know, that you got to climb. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Thank you, Stuart. It's clearer now.
Good, you're welcome.
Stuart, I would like to ask you, it seems, and I've read in Nityananda's, the book of his words about desirelessness. This is a practice that connects us to the nothingness, desirelessness. So my question is, how do you reconcile like desire and desirelessness with this practice?
Shouldn't read so many books. You're gonna make yourself crazy. Anyway, look, you know, look, you cannot be free of things you don't experience. So you've got to have, you know, some ambition in you to experience life, to become successful, to do your life with, you know, on a very high level. That desire enables you to get to places where you can really surrender things. And by learning, by attaining these things, you can surrender them and you get closer and closer to a state of nothingness inside you. This is not paradox. This all works together. What can you surrender if you haven't experienced it? Understand? So that's how you get to that state of nothingness, that state of desirelessness. Yes. But, you know, we all walk around desiring a lot of things, you know, and we beat ourselves up sometimes because we don't get them. But if you open and work and get things, You can't surrender money unless you really have experienced money. You can't just walk away because it's always, the rent's got to be paid, this, I got to work, I got to spend 8 hours a day working, but once you experience these things and you have learned how to deal with these things, you can have money and be free of money. That's what Rudy always taught me, to have and to be free of what you have. I remember standing on 10th Street with him and the fire engines were there. One of his buildings was burning. He owned a whole block practically, Rudy. He was very rich, Rudy. And he was standing, he looked at me, he said, Stuart, I must really be growing. I don't feel an ounce of tension. And one of my buildings is burning here, And people just freak out, their life is coming to an end, this, But you gotta have things to be free of them, to learn how to be free of them. So that's the paradox. You got a desire, you open, you attain, and then by attaining it, it teaches you how to become free of it. That's what I did in Texas. You understand? I built this thing there. It's enough. I don't need to do this anymore. I need a different kind of life now. And I moved back to New York. And it opened up an entire world. I mean, literally the world to me, living in New York. And then I had to learn to surrender that, to let go of that. I had to learn to surrender Zoom, and let go of this. It's all part of opening, embracing, and learning how to get strong enough to detach yourself from it, which doesn't mean you don't have success, you don't have all the wonderful things that life has to offer. You can have them, but you're free of them. They ain't got you, success isn't a god, money isn't a god. It's just an instrument you can use to give life, both of those things. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart?
Yes.
Would you please talk about our relationship to the past?
Look, we are everything from the past, except the only problem here is the past is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. Understand, it's like a shadow that trails us around. And in that shadow, we find reasons to be guilty, to be unhappy, the mistakes we made, the problems we had. And yet it's the same thing. You have to learn to let go of it. Look, the past is dead. The future hasn't come yet. The only thing we possess in this universe is this moment. It's the only thing we possess. And this moment, encompasses everything that exists in the universe. And the whole purpose of the meditation is to get strong enough so that we can live our life in the present and not play this ridiculous ping pong game with ourselves, where the ball is bouncing from the past to the future, to the past to the future. And in doing that, we forget we're alive now. We are living in the moment. And that is all we have. I mean, look, Chris told me that you're involved with music, If while you're playing a musical instrument, you're thinking about the past, you're going to hit a lot of bad notes, right? You got to be there. You have to be in that moment doing, when I was younger, I used to study acting in New York, and I was taught to be in the moment. This is all the teacher used to talk about. You got to be in the moment, totally in the moment, totally focused in the moment. Well, I mean, he should have known about the chakra below the navel, and that teaches you how to get focused in the moment. Is that clear, I hope?
Yes, thank you. It's much clearer now.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
Yes, Stuart, I do. Um, would would let's say that your present moment is one that's filled with a lot of guilt for something. So how would you suggest we deal with that feeling if that feeling just wants to exist?
Just get centered below in the navel chakra and open your heart, and all the guilt will go away. All of the guilt will just vanish. If your heart is open, there's love, there's joy, happy. Guilt can't thrive in that kind of environment. It can only thrive when the mind is active and the emotions are active. Then it thrives. But if you are centered, the heart is open, the chakra system gets stronger. There's nothing that any of us have to be guilty. Yeah, we made mistakes. So what? The purpose of making mistakes is to learn something. And if you learn something from them, you'll never feel guilty. Yes, we've hurt people, but we can say, I'm sorry. And we can learn how to not hurt people again. Understand how to love people, how to, treat people with kindness and goodness. But we've all made mistakes in the past. We've all done crazy things. And we have to learn how to get strong enough inside to apologize to ourselves, to other people, to, for these mistakes. And then guilt is a non-existent factor. What are we guilty of? We're born. I mean, I don't buy that, that we're guilty because we're born. I mean, look at what comes into the world, this delicious, sweet, happy little person, that nobody can look at without loving them. Where's the guilt? Comes later because we're trained to feel guilty by the stupidity of the world, So that's also one of the keys to this meditation is learning how to get grounded, learning how to build balance and harmony in yourself. Because balance and harmony will allow the heart to stay open. And when the heart is open, there is no guilt. There's forgiveness, there's patience, there's the ability to say, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you.
Even if somebody else doesn't accept your apology, you will grow. You will grow. You will become more of a human being doing that by just learning how to forgive yourself and other people. It's work to build that kind of inner life. But once it starts coming, it's an amazing way to live. If you'll pardon my Bronxese, all the bullshit in the world just bounces off you, All the things.
Where were you in the Bronx?
Huh?
Where were you in the Bronx?
I was born in the Bronx.
So was I.
I was born in the Bronx. In the South Bronx, in the slums of the Bronx.
South Bronx. Thank you.
You talk about miracles coming out of the South Bronx, tenements and slums and gang wars and all that. To be doing this today, I mean, my God,
Yes.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, as I end this class, I just have to say thank you to all of you for being here, for asking questions, for wanting to grow, for wanting to have a spiritual life, for wanting to put up with me, and my stuff. God bless you all and thank you. And in all humility, I am very grateful to be here, to do this, to work the greatest depth I can work in myself, to share what I've learned in my life. So bless you all. And there'll be a meditation class tomorrow evening. And I hope to see you all then. And bless you. Thank you.
Thank
Good night, Stuart. Thank you.
Nice.
Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you very much.
God bless you all.
Right.
Thank you.